asked Jerry not to introduce me because every time somebody writes an introduction about me, it sounds like an obituary, and I want to scream, "I'm still here!" This is going to be audience participation. It's not a keynote. It's a bait and switch. So for those of you who want me to talk for the next 15, 20 minutes, raise your hand. I like you. And for those who are going to be willing to engage in a conversation, raise your hands. Good answer. A couple of my colleagues, Greg and Riley, are going to have roving mics, and we're going to have a little discussion because I think at this point there's been too much from here to there and not enough discussion among ourselves, and so we'd like to engage in a bit of discussion. Greg, could you grab the other mic, please? It's up here. Oh, you've got it already.
Riley's
Sorry.
got it. Yep.
Oh, good. So I'm going to throw out a question and see if somebody wants to render an opinion. We've now heard arguably 30 points of view about digital technology and healthcare over the last day and a half. What can we do differently to help them succeed more quickly? So are there things that we can do as a community of healthcare executives, technology executives, do to help these ideas get more traction and become more successful? And if no one picks up the mic, I'm going to call on you. Jamie. Jamie's right down there. Give him the mic. No, right behind you.
Can you hear me, John? So I really appreciate being picked first for this, wonderful answer.
So for fair disclosure, I know Jamie. He's a physician with a very successful career. As he says, from the inside out, from the top to the bottom, he covers almost everything. But he's also an early entrepreneur in trying to make a difference in healthcare. So that's why I picked on you.
Thank you. No, I think the thing that's been really, really an important point that struck home has been how no matter how many digital technological innovations we've been privileged to learn about, it's mostly focusing in the end on the patients themselves and the delivery of medical care. And really, when you think about the conclusions that most people are ending their talks with or their presentations, they're really keeping that in mind. And I think one of the most difficult things to do is to simplify all these problems down to basically effective, implementation. So, who's going to use what we're creating? How's it going to be beneficial? How is it going to be paid for? Who has the bandwidth to pay for it? And how are we going to get the messages out so we don't bombard those who are our target audience or clients so that they're not overwhelmed with so many options? And so I think that's where the HITLAB Symposium has been really helpful, because it helps us as the audience members and as the presenters to try to narrow down, which of these technologies can be combined or cooperative, efforts can be, generated and created so that we have an ability to then, come up with a strategy to go to the customer, right, the doctors or the patients themselves and say, hey, we've done all the brainstorming, we've done all the development, what can we do now to now offer you something that's really simple, straightforward, easy to use, and affordable, right? Because the cost, unfortunately, of implementing everything we're hearing about today would be extraordinary to those who are going to be the users and the consumers. So I think that what can HITLAB do? I think HITLAB can really focus on helping we who are doing our individual developments meet up and match with the right kind of cooperative partnerships to be able to then strategize down to, now how do we implement and how do we make it affordable and how do we make it effective? And I think that that's a really, really important part that you and I haven't had a chance to talk about, but I think it's a really important point to emphasize.
Great, Jamie, thank you.
Thank you.
What I heard Jamie say, among many things, is that there's a value in partnership. And a value in a partnership that's focused on the implementation or the insertion or the integration, if you will, of new ideas into a very well-established infrastructure of old stuff, because we are all living with a lot of old stuff. We're living with the investments that have been made over the last 10, 20, 30 years in the way in which healthcare is delivered. And so, in essence, anything new has got to fit in. And so how do we help it fit in? And so the thought that jumped to my mind was, how do we offer greater support and partnership for early stage companies? Now, as an advisor to early stage companies, one of the first questions I ask is, who are you and why are you capable of doing this? Do you have the skill, the experience, the passion? And secondly, do you have industry-based advisors? Who is your board of advisors? Who are your partners? Who are the guides to kind of help you through this swamp and forest that you've got to go through? And so I think, I'm going to take a mental note and say one important dimension is to ensure that we have sources of partnership available to early stage companies. So thanks, Jamie. If someone else doesn't raise their hand for the mic, I'm going to point at you.
There you go. Yeah, so to your point, I'm thinking back to the whole sandlot metaphor that was used a lot in software developer world. I wonder if there's, and in a lot of the companies today, we're asking for partnerships, proof of concept, and it's that early stage, I think, where a lot of innovative companies get stopped, is really light proof of concept opportunities and crossing into the clinical space, and without a massive amount of overhead. I mean, as an entrepreneur, I sort of steer away from large academic institutions for that reason, for these early proof of concepts, because it's slow and it's well, maybe I'm going about it wrong, but it's burdensome. I had one company want me to get $15 million in cyber liability insurance just to do 2 patients, or IRB, or that kind of thing.
Well, you triggered another thought. Thank you. I am picking on people I know, by the way, and also people who are lighted. So those of you in the back, you're not safe, but at least you're on the horizon. A lot of the provider systems, through their innovation programs and their accelerators, actually provide what I'll call a sandbox of opportunity to test and develop a solution within the context of that provider. So they provide a place, I don't want to say play, but a place to test and begin to examine the connectivity issues and the influence of new solutions on that established organization. And so that's what I would call a structured support capability. And so as much as it's painful to get through those processes, it's also a more fertile place to play that we shouldn't ignore. So, anybody else? There's a hand in the back. Thank you.
Thank you. Great discussion. I just wanted to add, as Jamie said, it's a lot about implementation, right? Great ideas. Everybody's on board because technology and AI, ML is all the buzzwords these days. So great ideas. I think where we can help from the industry standpoint is really sit down and understand where are the roadblocks that you will run into in terms of even approaching a pharma company with these ideas and how they can partner, and kind of really do a challenge session, right? To say, hey, these are the roadblocks, these are the questions, how do you answer them? How do you get to a pitch where it's the value proposition that you're giving to that company and how you can help, so the implementation gets a little more smoother. It won't be easy because pharma is the way it is with all the guardrails and restrictions, but we can at least make it more smoother for them.
Okay. Thank you. All I need is a baseball cap. Down front here.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Sure. Let me separate out the question a little bit between companies that are earlier stage and companies that are mid-stage or later stage, and how we can support them. On the earlier stage, I often find that they don't have a very clear business objective. They don't understand the regulatory environment, and they often feel if they do understand the regulatory environment with digital therapeutics, for instance, they think that receiving a 510K approval is sufficient permission and pathway to be successful, when it's not. It's really about creating the economic dynamic between the enterprise and its patient care value offer and payers. And they seem to forget that payers are a fragmented, difficult system to navigate, and they're based upon not just coding or J-codes, but actually securing a J-code specific to your therapeutic in this modality. They also forget that they're competing against tablets and capsules. And so when they say a digital therapeutic is less expensive and equally effective to a therapeutic, often those therapeutics, and we have companies here from Merck and Novo Nordisk and so forth, have conducted clinical trials with thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of people in clinical trials. A 250-person study for a 510K for a physician or a formulary committee does not add up when you have to decide on the patient's well-being. So they really need to get in tune with the culture and dynamic, the economics of the market. We have a responsibility to help them understand that. And certainly the stumbles of pair therapeutics and others are really the sort of where the skeletons lie along that road. That's one aspect of this. The other aspect of this is understanding that having a physician connection in an institution is insufficient to get an institution to focus on your chatbot or Gen AI idea. It's actually getting the buy-in of the chief technology officers in the institution and getting them to understand the value of the idea or the structure in scraping data off an EMR, how that provides efficiency and economic value in capturing coding for the institution itself. Again, the business model. And then not only that, thinking through the service component of health information digital technologies. They don't think through the CTO of the institution has to actually marshal staff and economics to support the new idea and bring it into the system. So I think what happens is often we encourage, we're enthusiastic, we listen to the person whose father had the difficult condition and now wants to stop others from suffering. That's admirable, and that's the genesis of what drives all of us to perform at heightened levels. But ultimately, we live in a very fragmented, complex, hard to define and understand health ecosystem. We have a responsibility as leaders to make sure that those people coming in to change and make a difference understand the landscape.
Yeah. Thank you. That was very well said. And it triggered another thought, which is probably well known by the investors in here, whether you're an angel or a seed or a more established VC fund. Investors don't talk about this openly, but when you get together over a couple of cocktails, you learn a lot. And most investors will acknowledge that in spite of the rigor with which they examine their prospects or their potential investments, they ultimately have 30 to 40% of their decision based on the characteristics and the quality of the team. Yeah. Are these people who know their way around healthcare? Do they have some experience? Are these people who've got the passion and the resilience to deal with the indignity of trying to start a new business? Because, as you know, Jamie, not easy. And so the team structure, the team characteristics, the team experience and background is essential from an investor's point of view to make a risky investment. The second thing they look at is not the gee whiz, not how does the car work. They say, why do you need a car? What problem are you solving? Is this a problem that's significant enough and solvable enough in the world of healthcare that it's worth solving and worth going through, again, the agony of putting money at risk and putting energy at risk to build a solution? So quality of team, size of problem, and you're already more than halfway to the decision about whether or not to put an investment into an opportunity. The third thing is whether or not there's any evidence of traction or interest in the market. So do you have a partner? Do you have a prototype in somebody's hands? Do you have a path to which you're going to actually be able to test and demonstrate that the solution not only works but fits in as it works? Fourth is, what is it? How does it work? Is it technologically robust? Is it sufficiently protectable? Is there any IP? My key point here is that we hear a lot about the gee whiz character of technology, but when you're looking at the investment side, which is a colder and a little more indifferent perspective on these things, there are other characteristics that have to be considered as well. That's part of what the Breakthrough Alliance is trying to do. And I saw Jerry walk into the back with some big checks in hand, so I think that we've got a winner or two. But just to help everybody understand the criteria by which, excuse me, by which the winners are being selected is first, innovation. I mean, how innovative is this? You know, is it building on other knowledge? Is it assembling things in a new way? It's not invention, and there's a difference between invention and innovation, but is this truly innovative or just interesting? Secondly, is it scalable? Is it something that can go beyond the test bed, can go beyond the prototype, can go beyond the pilot, and in fact, is the characteristics of the solution from a technology and a delivery and a support mechanism sufficiently scalable that it can become diffusive into the marketplace? A cool tool is easy to sell for $50, but can you sell the tens of thousands at $5? And that's an important question of scalability. And then third, sustainability, which is a judgment about whether or not it's sufficiently protectable innovation that it can withstand the competitive marketplace. So innovation is great, but if somebody with more money and a dedicated commitment to being a fast follower comes along, are they going to knock the what I'll call the inventor or the leader out of the way? And then finally, impact. Is this something that is going to solve a sufficiently large problem that it's worth the effort, worth the money, worth the risk of moving forward? So those are the four criteria: innovation, scalability, sustainability, and impact, on which the candidates were evaluated. And I'm going to step off stage and check if the checks are ready.